The scent of freshly brewed coffee and lavender, that was the smell of my marriage. It was the smell of our mornings. For 12 years, I'd woken up to the soft gurgle of the coffee machine I'd set the night before, and the faint scent of the lavender sachets Chloe, my wife, insisted on keeping in every drawer. It was the smell of stability, of a life built brick by brick, a foundation so solid I never thought to check for cracks. This morning was no different. I handed her the mug, the one with the chipped rim she refused to throw away, and she smiled at me over it. It was a familiar, comfortable smile, the smile of a woman who was my other half. "Big day," I said, kissing her forehead. "You excited for the spa afternoon with Sarah?" Can't wait," she murmured into her coffee. "My sister is a lifesaver." I desperately need to unplug. My phone will be off all afternoon. Total detox. "You deserve it," I told her, and I meant it. We were a team. Her happiness was my project, just as mine was hers. Or so I believed. The first tremor in that foundation came an hour later. I was in my workshop in the garage, sanding down a piece of reclaimed oak for a bookshelf I was making, when I heard her voice through the slightly ajar door leading into the house. It was hushed, conspiratorial. I paused, the sander whining down into silence. "No, he has no idea. He thinks I'm with Sarah all day," she whispered. A pause. "Don't worry, he'll be in his workshop until dark. He's completely oblivious. I'll see you at 1. Our usual spot. The words didn't register at first. They floated in the dusty air of my workshop, alien and nonsensical. He's completely oblivious. He. Me. I was he. Her voice was different. It wasn't the warm, open voice I knew. This was a voice wrapped in secrets, a voice meant for someone else. I stood there, motionless, the smooth, cool wood under my fingertips. The logical part of my brain started offering explanations. A surprise for me? A secret birthday plan even though my birthday was 6 months away? A gossip session about one of Sarah's messy relationships? But my gut, a cold, heavy knot in my stomach, knew better. It recognized the tone of a lie. She left 10 minutes later, waving goodbye through the workshop window with that same comfortable smile. It looked different now. It looked like a mask. I watched her car pull out of the driveway, the lavender sachet dangling from her rearview mirror swinging gently. Our usual spot. The words echoed. For the next hour, I tried to work. I ran the sander over the oak, but my mind was a million miles away. The smooth grain of the wood felt like a mockery of the splintered chaos in my head. I couldn't do it. The lie was a splinter in my own mind, and I had to dig it out. My plans for the day vanished. The bookshelf, my clients, the quiet satisfaction of creation, it all evaporated. I wiped the sawdust from my hands, changed into a clean shirt, and got in my car. I didn't have a destination. I just drove. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was inventing a crisis. But I ended up on the other side of town, in the upscale district where boutiques and bistros catered to people with lives far more glamorous than ours. It was a place Chloe loved. I parked and just started walking, feeling like a ghost haunting my own life. I found a small, quiet cafe with a large window overlooking the main promenade and ordered an espresso I didn't want. I sat there watching people walk by, feeling the cold knot in my stomach tighten with every passing minute. I was about to give up, to call myself a fool and go home when I saw her. She wasn't with her sister. She was walking out of a high-end jewelry store across the street. And her hand was linked with a man's. He was tall, dressed in a suit that cost more than my car, with the kind of polished, effortless confidence that I'd always found abrasive. They were laughing. Chloe's head was thrown back in a way I hadn't seen in years, a laugh of pure, uninhibited joy. It was a laugh she used to share with me. The world went silent. The clatter of plates in the cafe, the murmur of conversations, the traffic outside, it all faded into a dull, distant roar. My vision narrowed until they were the only two people on the planet. I watched as he leaned down and tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. It was a gesture of such casual intimacy it felt like a physical blow. Then he held up a small, velvet box. Chloe opened it and her face lit up. She threw her arms around his neck and kissed him. It wasn't a peck on the cheek. It was a deep, hungry kiss, filled with a passion and desperation that told a story all its own. The story of 1,000 stolen moments, of secret phone calls, of a whole other life lived in the shadows of mine. In that instant, every doubt, every nagging suspicion from the past few months clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The late nights she claimed were work deadlines. The new, expensive lingerie she said she bought for me but never wore. The way she guarded her phone like it was a state secret. I wasn't paranoid. I was a fool. The shock was a sheet of ice encasing my heart. There was no fire, no explosive rage, just a profound, soul-crushing cold. I saw the truth, and it was uglier than I could have ever imagined. My hand was steady as I placed a $20 bill on the table. I stood up, my movements calm and deliberate, and walked out of the cafe, keeping my head down. I got back in my car and just sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. I could get out. I could walk across that street and shatter their perfect little bubble right now. I could scream and rage and give them the satisfaction of watching me break. But as I watched them walk away, his arm possessively around her waist, something else began to form in the frozen landscape of my heart. The cold began to burn. The shock crystallized into something hard and sharp. Justice. Not loud, messy, emotional justice, but a quiet, calculated, and absolute reckoning. She had built her fantasy on the foundation of our life, our trust, our history. I decided right then and there that I wouldn't just knock it down. I would use the very bricks she'd given me to build her a stage, and on that stage, I would direct the final act of our marriage myself. Her parents' 30th anniversary vow renewal was in 2 months, the perfect audience, the perfect venue for the truth. As I started the engine and pulled away from the curb, a cold, meticulous plan began to take root. The curtain had fallen on my marriage, but the show was far from over. Walking back into our house that evening was like entering a foreign country I only vaguely recognized. The air, usually thick with the comforting scent of our life, lavender and coffee, now felt thin and suffocating, poisoned by a secret I was now part of. Chloe was in the kitchen, humming along to the radio, chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked up and gave me that smile again, the one that was now a grotesque caricature of affection. "Hey, honey." "How was the workshop?" she asked, her voice a perfect symphony of casual love. "Productive," I replied, my own voice sounding unnaturally calm in my ears. I walked over and kissed her cheek. Her skin was warm, but all I could feel was the icy chill of the man who had kissed her lips hours earlier. It took every ounce of my self-control not to recoil. "Smells amazing. What are we having?" This was my new reality. A stage play where I was both the lead actor and the sole member of the audience who knew the script was a tragedy. That night, as she slept soundly beside me, her gentle breathing a rhythmic taunt in the darkness, my investigation began. Anger is a hot, messy emotion. It makes you reckless. What I felt was something far colder, far more precise. It was a purpose. I slipped out of bed and went to my office, the small room where I managed the accounts for my custom furniture business. This was my sanctuary, and now it was my war room. I didn't start with her phone, that was too risky. I started with the digital ghost of our life, the network router. I logged into the admin panel, a place I hadn't looked at in years, and began combing through the data logs. It was tedious, but it was a start. Her phone, her tablet, her laptop, they all had unique MAC addresses. I tracked their activity over the last 6 months. The pattern was damningly clear. On the nights she was supposedly working late at her downtown office, her devices would disconnect from our home Wi-Fi, only to reconnect hours later, long after midnight. But they weren't connecting to her office network. The IP addresses she was logging into were residential, all clustered in the same upscale neighborhood across town, the one I had just visited. The next piece of the puzzle came from our shared family cloud account. It was a service we'd set up years ago to automatically back up photos from our phones, creating a digital scrapbook of our life together. It was convenient, a river of memories I rarely looked at. Chloe was meticulous about organizing her albums, summer vacation, family Christmas, home renovations. But people, I've learned, are never as clever as they think they are. They hide things in plain sight. Deep within the file structure, past years of photos, I found a folder named Archive Tax 2022. An intentionally boring name. My heart hammered against my ribs as I clicked it. It wasn't filled with receipts, it was filled with them. At the first photo was a selfie. Chloe and the man from the jewelry store, their heads close together, smiling in a hotel room. His arm was around her, his hand resting proprietarily on her hip. Her eyes, sparkling with a joy I hadn't seen directed at me in years, were looking at him, not the camera. My breath hitched. I scrolled. There were dozens. Pictures of them at dinner, clinking wine glasses. Pictures of them on a beach I didn't recognize, her in a bikini I'd never seen. Pictures that were more intimate, tangled in bed sheets, their faces flushed with a shared secret. Each image was a new, expertly wielded knife in my gut. But the worst was yet to come. Buried among the photos were screenshots. Hundreds of them. Screenshots of their text conversations, saved for posterity. Her lover's name was Richard. He was, as I'd suspected, a wealthy investment banker. I read their words, my hands growing numb. They didn't just talk about logistics or secret meetings, they talked about a future. They talked about love. And they talked about me. "Does he suspect anything?" Richard had asked in one message. Chloe's reply appeared beneath it, a stark white bubble of text that burned itself into my retinas. "Not a chance. He's sweet, but so wrapped up in his little workshop. He thinks my world is as small as his. So trusting. It's almost sad. Good. I don't want anything getting in the way of our plan. As soon as the merger is complete, you can finally leave him and that dusty old house behind." Another screenshot showed her reply to him after I'd bought her a necklace for our anniversary. "He got me another piece of jewelry. It's nice, I guess." He tries. "It's not the one I want, though. Only you know what I really want." I felt the phantom weight of that jewelry store box in my hand. It all made sense now. I sat there for hours, the only light in the house coming from the poisonous glow of the monitor. I felt a strange sense of detachment, as if I were an archaeologist uncovering the ruins of a forgotten civilization. This life, this marriage, it was already dead. I was just sifting through the bones. With methodical precision, I downloaded every single file, every photograph, every screenshot. I saved them onto a new encrypted thumb drive, a tiny silver coffin for my 12-year marriage. I created 3 separate backups and hid them. When I was done, I cleared the browser history, logged out of the account, and shut down the computer. The sun was just beginning to hint at the horizon. I walked back into our bedroom. Chloe was still sleeping, her face peaceful, angelic. The lavender from her pillowcase filled the air. For a moment, a wave of pure hot rage washed over me, so intense it made me dizzy. The urge to wake her up, to throw the evidence in her face and watch her perfect world burn was immense. But I crushed it. I buried it deep. A chaotic fire would be too quick, too merciful. She deserved a carefully constructed inferno. I slipped back into bed, and as I lay there in the ruins of my life, I stared at the calendar on my phone. Her parents' vow renewal, Saturday, June 14th. The perfect day for a celebration. The perfect day for a slideshow. The shift from investigator to architect was seamless. The cold, hard purpose I'd found in the digital ruins of my marriage now needed a blueprint. The venue was chosen. Her parents' 30th anniversary vow renewal. Now, I needed to build the stage. The opportunity presented itself a week later during Sunday dinner at my in-laws' house. It was a scene of perfect domestic bliss. Her father, Bill, was telling a story about his first date with her mother, Susan. Chloe was laughing, leaning against my shoulder, her hand resting on my knee. The casual hypocrisy was breathtaking. As Susan brought out a collection of old photo albums, an idea, polished and perfect, fell into place. "You know," I began, my voice filled with a warmth I didn't feel. "For your anniversary, you should have a slideshow. A real trip down memory lane for everyone." Susan's eyes lit up. "Oh, that's a wonderful idea. But we wouldn't know where to start. Bill can barely work the television remote." I smiled. letting the bait hang in the air for a moment. I'd be honored to do it for you. Seriously. I can scan all these old photos, mix in some newer ones, set it to music. It would be my gift to you. The offer was met with a chorus of approval. Chloe squeezed my arm. Honey, that's so thoughtful. Are you sure you have the time? She asked, her voice brimming with pride for her wonderful, considerate husband. For you guys? I'll make the time, I said, looking directly at Bill and Susan. My performance was flawless. I was the devoted son-in-law, the pillar of the family. They didn't just agree, they were ecstatic. I had just volunteered to build my own Trojan horse, and they were throwing the gates wide open for me. For the next 8 weeks, I lived a double life of excruciating precision. By day, I was the loving husband, listening to Chloe's mundane stories about work, discussing catering options for the party, and feigning excitement. By night, with the encrypted thumb drive plugged into my laptop, I became the architect of her ruin. I created 2 separate video files. The first was the decoy, which I labeled Vow Renewal Draft. I poured hours into it, making it genuinely beautiful. I scanned hundreds of photos of Bill and Susan's life together. Their wedding, the birth of their children, awkward teenage family portraits, graduations, holidays. I chose their favorite songs, timing the photo transitions perfectly. It was a masterpiece of sentimental fiction, and it served its purpose perfectly. About 2 weeks before the party, Chloe came into my office while I was putting the finishing touches on it. What you working on? She asked, wrapping her arms around my neck from behind and resting her chin on my shoulder. Just the slideshow. Want a sneak peek? I asked, my heart a steady, rhythmic drum. I played the decoy for her. She watched, completely captivated. As a photo of her as a little girl with her father faded onto the screen, tears welled in her eyes. She kissed my cheek. Oh, Alex. It's perfect. They're going to love it. You are the best husband in the world. I just want to make them happy, I said, the words tasting like acid in my mouth. She had no idea the compliment she was paying to my craftsmanship. Then there was the second file, the real one. I named it vow_renewal_final. It started identically to the decoy. The first 2 minutes were a gentle, nostalgic journey through 30 years of marriage, set to a soft piano score. It was designed to lull the audience of 100 friends and family members into a warm, celebratory haze. But at the 2-minute mark, as a picture of a smiling young Chloe holding her father's hand appeared, the programming changed. I didn't just dump the evidence in. I wove it into their history, turning their life story into a testament of her betrayal. After the photo of young Chloe, a screenshot of her message would flash on screen for 5 seconds. He's sweet, but so wrapped up in his little workshop. It's almost sad. Then back to a photo of our wedding day, us smiling, cutting the cake. Immediately followed by a picture of her and Richard tangled in hotel bed sheets, the date stamp from 3 months ago glowing in the corner. A video clip of her father giving a toast at our wedding, talking about trust and commitment, spliced with a screenshot of Richard's text. As soon as the merger is complete, you can finally leave him and that dusty old house behind. I orchestrated the entire 5-minute presentation like a symphony of destruction. The sentimental piano music would continue to play throughout, creating a surreal, horrifying backdrop to the filth on the screen. The final 30 seconds would be a rapid-fire montage, image after image of her and Richard, kissing, laughing, on their secret vacation, intercut with her most damning messages, her most profound lies. The final image would be a close-up of the receipt from the jewelry store for a diamond necklace I never gave her, dated the day she was supposed to be at the spa with her sister. The technical side was simple. I would use my own laptop, insisting that the video file was too large and specially formatted for my machine. The 2 files would sit side by side on my desktop. At the party, I'd be the one to give the toast honoring Bill and Susan, and then I would turn to my laptop, click play, and walk away. The plan was flawless, airtight, and unstoppable. The day of the vow renewal arrived, a beautiful, sunny Saturday. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the knot on my tie. Chloe came up behind me, beautiful in a sapphire blue dress. She straightened my collar. You look so handsome, she said, her reflection smiling at me in the mirror. Are you nervous about your speech? I met her eyes in the reflection, my expression a carefully constructed mask of calm affection. Inside, a glacier of cold, hard certainty was all that remained. I had the thumb drive in my jacket pocket, a small, dense weight against my chest. Not at all, I said, turning to face her. I know exactly what I'm going to say. The venue was a testament to the life my in-laws had built. A sprawling botanical garden pavilion, draped in white linen and glittering with fairy lights. The air was warm and smelled of roses and champagne. A string quartet played softly in the corner. It was a perfect picture of idyllic happiness, a carefully constructed illusion I was about to burn to the ground. I moved through the crowd of 100 people, accepting pats on the back and compliments on my suit, a serene smile fixed on my face. My eyes scanned the room and found him. Richard. He was standing near the bar, looking predictably smug in a tailored suit, holding a glass of scotch. Chloe had introduced him as a senior partner from work, a necessary guest. He caught my eye and gave me a slight, condescending nod. He had no idea he was a guest of honor at his own execution. After the main course, Bill tapped his glass for attention. He gave a beautiful, heartfelt speech about his 30 years with Susan, and then he turned the floor over to me. And now, our wonderful son-in-law, Alex, who has prepared a very special surprise for us. A hush fell over the room. I walked to the podium next to the large projector screen, my footsteps echoing faintly on the polished floor. I looked out at the sea of expectant faces. I saw Bill and Susan in the front row, holding hands, their eyes shining. And I saw Chloe, looking at me with what she thought was love. It was the last time she would ever look at me that way. Family, I began, my voice steady and clear. It's a word we use a lot. But what does it mean? It means trust. It means loyalty. It means building a foundation so strong that nothing can ever tear it down. For 30 years, Bill and Susan have shown us all what that looks like. They are the bedrock of this family. I raised my glass. Thank you for being our example. To 30 more years. The room applauded warmly. I let the sound die down. As my gift to you, I've put together a little trip down memory lane, a collection of moments that built this incredible life. I walked over to my laptop, my back to the audience for a brief moment. I clicked once on the file named vow_renewal_final. Then I stepped back, my work done, and stood beside my wife's chair, placing a hand on her shoulder. The first 2 minutes were perfect. The soft piano music swelled as black and white photos of their wedding filled the screen. There were murmurs of awe and happy sighs from the crowd. Photos of a young Chloe and her sister, of family vacations and Christmases, flickered past. Susan was openly crying, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. Chloe squeezed my hand under the table. It's beautiful, she whispered. Then came the picture of her as a little girl holding her father's hand. It held for 3 seconds, and then it was replaced. A stark white screenshot with her name at the top. He's sweet, but so wrapped up in his little workshop. It's almost sad. It was on the screen for 5 seconds, long enough to be read, but quick enough to cause confusion. A few people frowned. I felt Chloe's hand tense under mine. Before anyone could process it, the screen cut back to a photo of our wedding day. A collective sigh of relief. They thought it was a technical glitch. And then it happened again. The happy wedding photo was replaced by an image of her and Richard half-dressed in a sterile hotel room, his arm draped over her bare shoulder. A single sharp gasp cut through the room. It was her mother. The piano music continued its gentle, melodic path, a horrifyingly cheerful soundtrack to the implosion of our lives. Now the pacing quickened. A photo of a family barbecue was replaced by a screenshot. Can't wait to leave him in that dusty old house behind. A photo of me and Chloe on our anniversary was replaced by the receipt for a diamond necklace. The room was utterly silent now, 100 people paralyzed in a state of collective shock. Every eye was glued to the screen as the final 30 seconds began, a rapid-fire montage of her duplicity. Kissing Richard. On the beach with Richard. Her explicit promises to him. Her mockery of me. It was an avalanche of evidence, undeniable and brutal. The final image, the jewelry receipt, stayed on screen as the piano music faded into silence. I looked at Chloe. The color had drained from her face, leaving a pale, waxy mask of horror. Her mouth was slightly open, her breath coming in ragged little puffs. Her eyes darted from the screen to me, filled with a dawning, shattering understanding. "Alex," she breathed, her voice a strangled whisper. "No." Slowly, deliberately, I pulled my hand away from her shoulder. Across the room, her father, Bill, was on his feet, his face purple with a rage so profound it seemed to vibrate. His eyes were not on me or his daughter, but locked onto Richard, who was frozen by the bar, his face ashen. Susan was sobbing into her hands, her body shaking. The silence broke. A wave of whispers and shouts erupted. Chaos bloomed in the pristine, beautiful pavilion. Chloe grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my sleeve. "How could you do this?" she shrieked, tears finally streaming down her face. I looked down at her, and for the first time in months, I felt nothing. No anger, no pain, no love. Just a vast, empty peace. I leaned in close, my voice just for her. "The better question," I said softly, "is how could you?" I straightened up. I reached into my jacket, but instead of the thumb drive, I pulled out my wedding ring. I placed the simple gold band on the table next to her untouched glass of champagne. It made a small, definitive clink. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't run. I walked calmly through the chaos, past the horrified faces of friends and family, past Bill taking a step toward a terrified Richard, past the wreckage of two families. The sounds of sobbing and shouting followed me out of the pavilion and into the cool, quiet night. The scent of roses was still in the air. I took a deep breath. It was the first clean breath I had taken in months. I didn't know where I was going, but for the first time in a long time, I was moving forward, leaving nothing but ashes behind me.